Yeah. Okay, we've got one non-agenda public speaker signed up. Can I call Mary Hardick?
Hi. My name is Mari Hardick. My address is 5545 Red River Drive, San Diego 92120. We were notified Thursday of last week one of our two fifth-grade teachers at Marvin Elementary was given notice she was being reassigned and the school would have to reconfigure its class assignments. This disruption 8 weeks into our school year in our children's education is both startling and unnerving. This reassignment necessitates the reshuffling of 11 classrooms in grade 1 through 5, affecting 253 of our students, which is nearly 70% of our school. The remaining fifth-grade class will now have a class size of 36 students to one teacher. This is unacceptable. Meanwhile, our teacher is being sent to a school where there are class size ratios of 17 to 1. If we are forced to reconfigure first through fifth grade, it will result in 5 combination classes of 13 classrooms. Clearly not an optimal learning environment. Furthermore, it has the potential to jeopardize existing programs such as Seminar, GATE, and our special education program. It would appear that little consideration was given to the detrimental impact of this decision. It seems to defy not only logic, but also the educational goals of our district set out in the 2020 Vision for Education Excellence set by the board earlier this year, and the very proposition that we are being asked to vote on today, Prop J. Fifth grade is a critical year in the preparation to become successful in middle school. This particular class that is about to be dismantled are in crucial need of consistency. They have had to endure their unfair share of reassignments and unsettling changes and have suffered both academically and emotionally. They have been rearranged on 3 separate occasions in the last 5 years. After 8 weeks of bonding between student and teacher, the feeling of security has already been established. The erosion of this bond is not in the best interest of our children. How can we maintain a positive work environment and competent teachers when we uproot them with little notice and send them to a completely unfamiliar location and expect them to go from teaching at a fifth grade level to teaching kindergarten with no kindergarten experience? Not that this teacher couldn't do it, because she is quite capable, but how does that benefit anyone? Does it benefit the new school kindergartners being introduced to her? Does it benefit this teacher? Does it benefit these fifth graders and more than half of our school, other teachers, staff, and our parents? It benefits no one. We are asking you to use your wisdom and power to fix this situation. This is not just about numbers, statistics, and budget cuts. This is about our children. Please reverse your decision to reassign this teacher so that we can move forward and give all of our children the education they deserve. On behalf of the students, teachers, staff, and parents of Marvin Elementary, I thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Thank you, Marvin, parents. Yes, Catherine, do you? Yeah.
I met with these parents yesterday and, in fact, asked them to come down here and speak. I think that there is this business of changing in the middle of the year is something you need to hear their passion, and you need to how concerned they are about this. This is a very small school, and they're right, it's going to disrupt an awful lot of programs. I do have concerns about making decisions. You know, we voted on the smaller class sizes for some of these schools, and I stood by that vote, you know, particularly at the beginning of the year, but not when it's going to disrupt in the middle of the year in order to keep the smaller class sizes at some of these schools. I can't say it's going to destroy this school, but I can tell you it's causing an awful lot of upset, and it's coming from the parents. They're just realizing what it's going to do. The entire school is going to be combination classes. So yeah. I'm asking staff to take a serious look at this without realizing that it is coming from the parents, and not going after any of the staff just because the parents. I mean, the parents this is a smart group of people. So.
Just commenting on that, we have several schools that have had to, since Thursday afternoon, reconfigure, and some of them will have a lot of combination classes, and we're not happy about that at all. But certainly, we do understand that we have to do the reshuffling. I just want to echo the comment that a lot of the staff principals have been concerned because they was given such a small window of time to have to make this reconfiguration. They were given the notice last week and it had to be ready by Monday to reshuffle these classes, and 8 weeks into the school is a little late. I know there was some glitches in the system up here at the Ed Center, but that was not fair to the families that were out there in the community. I think we had several schools that had to reconfigure, but I think what should have happened to help prepare the board members was that we should have known. So when we were out in public and people were saying this to us, why? I understood and certainly I responded, but I think that the frustration is still very high. A lot of the schools, like Marvin is experiencing, they don't want to lose a teacher, they don't want to have a lot of combination classes, but we know that because of numbers, sometimes we have to do some shifting. But I think that something has to be said on a general basis to make sure that everybody understands that it wasn't one particular school's isolated areas, it was throughout the entire district that we had to do the reshuffling, and if we start not reshuffling one school, but to do the same for all the other schools that had to shift to combination classes as well. I know Clay is very concerned about the same thing. Yes.
Okay. One point, too, is where did all of our excess teachers go? I mean, that's the concern that I've got is, we've got all of these extra teachers, so I just don't understand. So thank you.
About the extra teachers. Okay, so can I ask people to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We'll begin with a report out of administrative assignments. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Barrera. We have one reassignment. We have Mike Price to be area superintendent for the UC La Jolla and Kearney clusters, and Dr. Tony Burks to be the area superintendent for the Hoover Crawford clusters.
Okay, can we get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
And can we get a motion to excuse Board Member DeBeck?
So moved.
Second. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, great. Let's move on to item D1 then. This is the adoption of the I-21 MOU with a number of charter schools. Superintendent, you...
This is just an administrative procedure seeking approval from the board to make sure that we, in fact, have a consistent application of I-21 support for both district brick and mortar and for our charter district schools.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Okay, and now on to the renewal petition for Adeo Charter School. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And any comments? Nope. All in favor? Hold on just one second. Okay, we've got a motion and a second to renew Adeo Charter School. Please vote. Great, that passes 4-0. Congratulations, Adeo. Okay, and a new charter petition for the Old Town Academy Charter School. I understand that we've got some conditions attached to this, so maybe Moises, if you want to...
Yes, Moises, come forward, please.
Good evening, trustees, superintendent. This is an action item, the charter petition to establish the Old Town Academy Charter School. It had its public hearing June 1st. There are attached exhibit and board docs that include the proposed revised charter petition and budget information. The petition was reviewed by staff, and it was determined that the proposed renewal charter meets most of the requirements for approval, subject to the conditions recommended as outlined in the board report. Particularly, the recommendations are for the conditions under Element 2. The charter needs to be modified to include clearly measurable, quantifiable pupil outcomes. The charter has this information under an attachment, but this section needs to contain that information to comply. Element 3, charter needs to clearly identify accommodations that will be made for English language learners as well as special education students for testing purposes. Governance, there's a recommendation that the meetings are held within the boundaries of the school district, subject to applicable exceptions as set forth under Brown Act. Admissions, charter must be revised to state that in the event the charter school applies for the California Public Charter School Grant Program, the 10% exemption will apply to children of founders and faculty. It's a technicality. They currently have employees. And element 14, the charter needs to be amended to reflect that the district may have a designee in case a dispute arises. So with that, those are the conditions.
Great. So do we get a motion to adopt the staff recommendation to approve the petition with conditions?
With conditions.
Yep.
So moved.
Question. These conditions are placed there, so that basically means, rather than them going and meeting the conditions and coming back, we're just approving it at this point on the assumption it will be, but it's not in effect if they don't meet these. Is that what the conditional approval is?
That is correct. And the school intends to open in next school year as well, so there's some time to address
So it's not immediate.
areas. Right.
Okay. All right.
Okay, second.
Okay, please vote. All right, that's approved 4-0. And item D4 is the new charter petition for the
Move approval.
Congratulations, Old
Second.
Town. We've got a motion and a second to approve the Downtown Charter High School. Any discussion?
Just one question of clarification. We discussed before about doing the facilities issue later in terms of the use of the downtown library.
We did.
I'm curious if the petitioners are planning to go ahead with this charter regardless of whether or not they are eventually approved for the downtown library location.
It says yes.
Is that on there?
Yes.
I didn't see that. I'll have to reread it.
It's on the very first page.
Moises, did you want to just address that really quickly?
During the feedback process, district staff did provide a memorandum to the charter petitioners, and they responded by amending their charter petition to include language that states the proposed location of DCH, the proposed charter school, at the new San Diego Central Library site is subject to the district's application process for that site. In the event the district does not assign DCH to the library site, the DCH governing board will consider its options for either obtaining an alternative site or reconsideration of its charter. So we consider that the charter petitioners did respond to the comments from the board at the last public hearing.
Okay, that's
And we've got some speakers, and I apologize to the Old Town Charter School folks. We did have Christopher Celentino and Bob Ham who signed up to speak. You probably already left, but if you are still here and would like to speak, I apologize. Okay, well, let me call up then for the Downtown Charter Julie Kramer, Alberto Ochoa, and Deborah Barrow.
My name is Julie Zolan Kramer. I live at 4564 Granger Street in Point Loma, 92107. I'm the Development and Team Coordinator for the Downtown Charter High School. After our public hearing last month, we received feedback on our petition from the various district departments. We met with the Charter Office staff to discuss the feedback and, in line with the department's suggestions, made changes and upgrades. So tonight you now have before you the revised charter petition, and we're asking for your approval. An approval of our petition tonight is an important milestone for us, and so to mark this event, I'd like to extend my thanks to everyone that has worked on the design of the school. I'm particularly grateful for the way everyone has kept our primary goal firmly in mind, which is providing a new and quality opportunity for a charter high school in the downtown area for San Diego Unified School District students. So I want to thank our development team, our board of directors, the staff of the University of San Diego, and the members of our marketing outreach. And on behalf of Downtown Charter High, I'd also like to thank the California Charter School Association, the San Diego Public Library, its foundation, its library commissioners, and its library supporters. Finally, I'd like to thank the District Charter Office, very helpful in their direction and communication throughout the petition approval process. We look forward to moving ahead with this one-of-a-kind collaboration between the district, the city, and the San Diego Public Library Foundation on behalf of the students. The design of this charter school will demonstrate the mutual benefit of going beyond simply sharing space and into the realm of sharing a common purpose, which is lifelong learning and 21st century literacy. So we're very committed to this project and committed to the site of the San Diego Central Library. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Alberto Ochoa, 1615 Lynbrook Drive, San Diego 92111. Board members and Superintendent Cova, we want to thank you for your review of the San Diego Charter High petition. We, the board of the Charter, wish to reiterate the strengths of our educational design in serving the needs of downtown students, in developing downtown partnerships, and in providing new educational opportunity and academic rigor for 416 students of the downtown area and other San Diego Unified students. Four important aspects of the Charter are quality of opportunity for low-income students of the downtown area to participate in creative and multidimensional approaches in engaging the A2G high school curriculum while focusing on developing strong literacy skills. Secondly, the opportunity to serve San Diego Unified ethnically and linguistically diverse students, including English language learners, with a personalized, authentic, and rigorous curriculum. Third, the opportunity for students to be linked to learning partnerships, internships with downtown organizations, agencies, and professionals. Of importance to us, the board of the proposed charter, is to provide our ethnically and linguistically diverse students with a curriculum that is aligned with the mission of the school district, as well as to take advantage of the forthcoming 21st century library. With a focus on developing broad-based literacy skills that incorporate career skills, technology and digital literacy, scientific inquiry, biliteracy, and college-ready skills. Once again, we wish to affirm that the vision of the Downtown Charter School is to provide access to a rigorous curriculum to fully prepare our students to succeed in the 21st century. And of importance to us is for them to be engaged in civic activities through service learning experiences and personalized partnerships with professionals in the downtown area. As a strong advocate of educational access, equity, and academic rigor, we will work to assure that the diversity of the charter is reflective of the school district's demographics in terms of ethnicity, language characteristics, and socioeconomic background. Lastly, we wish to affirm that the proposed curriculum will be aligned to the policy that this board passed in terms of the A2G as the default curriculum for all students. Secondly, to provide authentic curriculum that is intellectually challenging, to assure that there's high standards are maintained for all of our students, and a personalized attention is given to each of our students. I want to thank you for your ongoing work and efforts to provide equal educational access for all of our students. Thank you.
And Deborah Barrow, is Deborah here? No. Okay. We've got a motion and a second to approve the Downtown Charter High petition. Please vote.
4-1. 4-0.
Okay. Great. Congratulations. Okay, we'll now move on to our Proposition S quarterly update. We've got a number of speakers on these items, so I think I might call up the public speakers first, and then we can get into our discussion. We've got yet more. Okay. Matthew Kalal, Cecil Stepp, Shanna Smith, Kathleen Kalinsky,
Good afternoon, President Barrera, Board of Education, and Superintendent Koba. I'm Matthew Kalal from Patrick Henry High School. Besides teaching instrumental music, I also teach Introduction to Arts, Media, and Entertainment Productions in the Career Tech Ed department. I'm here to support the Henry High School CET grant matching. The grant being discussed tonight is designed to supplement the approved auditorium so that it can be used for professional production training in stage, studio, TV, film, broadcast, and internet. All high-demand occupations and careers. The jobs and careers in the arts, media, and entertainment field make this field the #2 highest employer in San Diego. The strong teaching team is already in place at Patrick Henry and has been for several years as the foundations for a production and managerial arts program. At Lincoln, the production and managerial arts program was started after the theater facility was built. At Henry, the production and managerial arts program has started before the theater facility has even reached the blueprint stage. The classrooms and workshops in this grant will help thousands of students become college and career ready. Henry has never received any career technical education funding. Other sites have received multiple funding grants. There are even other projects under discussion tonight that will be funded from money from Prop S reserve funding. For those, $1 million or $4 million would be just that, $1 million or $4 million. But with this Proposition 1D Career Technical Education Grant, $1.9 million would mean $3.4 million. Your investment would be magnified. Henry has a growing CTE department. Henry should not be denied funding because it does not have the words magnet or charter behind its name. Henry is proud that it is a comprehensive high school offering students a fantastic, well-rounded education with quality opportunities in many areas of study. Last February, Mr. DeBeck made a comment expressing his desire that building this educational facility should be done right. I have been working and will continue to work to make sure that it is built right. The classrooms and workshops in this grant are a part of making sure this educational facility is done right. Board of Education, please do not turn away money that California wants to give to the students of this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Cecil. Cecil.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, supervisors, everybody. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to come before you. I'm passing out to you a letter as chairman of the board of Gompers Preparatory Academy, and I respectfully am asking that you, as confirmation of our board education tonight, that the facilities plan that has been developed for GPA Millennial Tech Middle School will proceed as planned. Students, staff, and community members from GPA and MTM spent several months developing a facility master plan that will meet the needs of these two growing schools within the limited space of both campuses. With discussion this evening of expanding the enrollment at MTM by 100 students, we are very concerned our facilities master plan may be in jeopardy. We would appreciate your reviewing the attached documents, which delineates the district's promise to GPA community, and confirming these promises that they will be executed as planned. We do not want to meddle in the affairs of our neighboring school in any way, but we do need to be assured that any changes to the MTM program will not create negative effects to the GPA facility. Our community has waited far too long to see these much-needed facility improvements on our campus, and we hope you remain committed to delivering on these promises. Included in that packet is the plot plan. A lot of energy, a lot of anguish went into discovering, developing a comprehensive plan between the two schools. And our hope and prayer is that you will keep them on your radar and make they happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Cecil. Shauna Smith.
My name is Shauna Smith, and my address is on file. This is my second year as Scripps Ranch High School Foundation President, and I have 2 daughters that attend Scripps. And I'm here tonight to speak for the 2,600 students and staff members at Scripps, and we all have the same thing to say. The lack of air conditioning at Scripps Ranch High School creates a health and safety issue. And tonight, you can make it right. Move Scripps Ranch High School to an immediate start date on the Prop S schedule. On the current proposed schedule, AC construction is not slated to begin until 2015, with completion 2017. To put that in perspective, current 6th graders will graduate from high school before any of the student and your staff can feel any relief. 7 years is too long to gamble with their health and safety. This is not an issue about comfort or academics. It's really basic. Our students and your staff must have healthy and safe classrooms. It's not uncommon for our classroom temperatures to reach the 90s and the 100s. Temperatures that high cause healthy students and healthy staff members to experience severe headaches, vomiting, dizziness, shortness of breath, and even to pass out. Can you imagine how someone is feeling that might have any kind of a health issue? As you know, Scripps parents supported Prop S 2 years ago, largely to add air conditioning to our hazardous classrooms. The money is available through Prop S funding, and we urge the board to allow work to begin immediately. With the best interests of the students and staff in mind, thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Kolinsky, and I'm a senior at Scripps Ranch High School, and my address is on file. This will be my 4th year at Scripps, and I enjoy being a student there. The administration and teachers work hard to make sure that we have what we need to be successful as students. Unfortunately, the unbearable heat we are faced with, mostly in the first and last few months of the school year, is beyond our teachers' control. Sitting in a classroom that traps heat like a greenhouse throughout the day is tiring and dangerous. Changing classes outside in the scorching heat is inevitable, but simply entering an air-conditioned classroom can lessen the effect. Heat exhaustion creates a dangerous health situation and lifeless students. This in turn creates anxious and lifeless teachers. On any given day, 100 students should not feel the need to go home because they cannot sit in a classroom that is over 100 degrees. Going home is an option when it's too hot to function in a classroom. However, that also means getting behind on classwork. The installation of air conditioning at the high school would benefit the school as a whole because it would allow us to focus on academics rather than the stress the heat puts on our bodies. We ask you to look further into this and please do the right thing. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Colin Smith, Matt Tolliver, and Gloria Tron.
Hi, my name is Colin Smith, and I'm a 9th grader at Scripps Ranch High School, and my address is on file. The school nurse, Kathy Harkey, could not be here this evening and asked that this letter be read to the board. To whom it may concern, my name is Kathy Harkey, and I'm the registered nurse practitioner at Scripps Ranch High School. I also have a master's degree in public health. I've been the full-time nurse at this school for 8 years. Previously, I worked at Marshall Middle School, the original site where there was also no air conditioning. I have voiced my concerns regarding the lack of air conditioning at this site to our current principal, Kurt Madden, as well as all of the previous Scripps Ranch High School principals, Bobby Forcier, Duncan McDonald, Bill Fox, and Donna Campbell. Causes of heat exhaustion are excessive loss of body water and depletion of body electrolytes. One treatment for heat exhaustion is to rest in a cool environment. Bungalow and classrooms without air can get up to well over 100 degrees on days when the outside temperature is just 90 degrees. I started taking the room temperature of the health office last May of 2010. I noticed that the health office was at least 10 to 15 degrees higher than that of the outside temperature. My concern was this: how can a student who is already experiencing signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion get relief from the nurse when her office is just as miserable as the classroom the student came from? How can a student learn in an environment which causes them to be lightheaded, nauseated, dizzy, and suffer from headaches? How can they be comfortable when they are sweating so much that they actually stick to their seats when standing up? On Monday, September 27th, I saw a record 200 students in my health office. The outside temperature was a record 109 degrees. The temperature in my health office was 120 degrees. Kids were brought in with severe headaches, vomiting, dizziness, and approximately 20 kids passed out. Many parents just showed up at the school and demanded that they take their children home. I also became concerned for our 2 attendance secretaries. They were overwhelmed with the number of kids I was sending home, and they also had to deal with the angry parents who showed up asking to take their children home. One of our teachers, who suffers from diabetes, came in with a very low blood sugar and a very high blood pressure. Her husband had to drive her to urgent care for immediate follow-up. Several teachers complained of severe headaches and shortness of breath. Their blood pressures were above normal. They were asked to rest in my very hot office and drink fluids until I cleared them to return to teach. Students and staff should be able to learn, work, and teach in an environment that is conducive to their health and well-being. I can honestly say that this is not the case here at Scripps Ranch High School. Please help us change this. Sincerely, Kathy Harkey.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Matt Tolliver, and my address is on file. My wife and I have a freshman this year at Scripps Ranch High School. We also have 2 other children in Scripps Ranch schools in grades 3 and 5. In 2008, I had the good fortune of receiving military orders to San Diego. My wife and I chose our location based on school opportunity. Thus far, we've been thankful for the education product we have received, so thank you. However, we were not aware until this year that Scripps Ranch High School can be dangerous to our children. My background in risk management and safety leaves me astonished that we are exposing teachers and students to unnecessary risk. Without all the facts and circumstances surrounding high temperatures in our school, I believe it is an unsatisfactory policy to require teachers and students to remain, much less perform, in a hazardous environment. My understanding of California safety and health standards is that supervisors are required to provide an environment free from hazard. Requiring our Scripps Ranch teachers and students to remain in classrooms in temperatures in excess of 100 degrees is not an environment free from hazard. Personally, I have a decision next year, and that is whether or not to remain in San Diego after my career in the Marine Corps is complete, or move to a better place for my children. My wife and I want to stay here. Recently, our family adopted a dog. California SB 1806 imposes a fine of $500 or 6 months in jail if I or my wife leave animals in vehicles similar to temperatures recorded in Scripps Ranch High School's nurse's office this year. I value my children's education, but my priority first is their health. If we choose to stay in this community, this great community and great city, I'll be ready to protect my children and remove them from Scripps Ranch High School during heat waves. I ask you to come up with a solution. If not, parents have to keep their kids out of known hazardous conditions which may affect attendance matters issues. Or worse, stand by and watch hundreds visit nurses and dozens pass out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gloria Tran, and my address is on file. I have 2 children in the Scripps Ranch cluster and have worked for years to bring air conditioning to classrooms that are too hot for children and teachers. As Shauna said, this is not about comfort or academics. It's much more basic. Scripps Ranch High School's classrooms are simply too hot and too dangerous. The accepted nationwide standard for indoor temperatures tops out at 78 degrees. Scripps Ranch classrooms regularly reach the 90s and 100s. In November 1998, the San Diego County Grand Jury report entitled San Diego's Educational Sweatshop stated, quote, "It is time to do something about hot classrooms," unquote. That was in 1998. It's now 12 years later, and Scripps Ranch High students and staff will not get any relief until at least 2017. That's nearly 20 years after the San Diego County Grand Jury recognized the district's hot classrooms as a serious health issue and called for air conditioning to be a priority. When voters passed Prop S in November 2008, school communities were asked what projects were needed on their specific campuses. Air conditioning for Scripps was actually listed on the ballot. Now district staff recommends adding new projects that were not part of the original Prop S list and have given them higher priority than adding air conditioning to Scripps. There is an Academy of Business and Technology at one high school and a broadcast journalism building at another. While these and other new projects are wonderful additions, we are concerned about basic health and safety issues at Scripps Ranch High. Even at Scripps, the new power and energy building is scheduled to be complete in 2012. It will have air conditioning. That $8 million building will serve about 300 students a year, while the other 2,100 students and hundreds of staff will continue to be in an unsafe, hot classrooms. We realize there are matching funds for this new building, and it will be a media showcase. However, we believe there will be another media showcase when 20 more students pass out due to hazardous classrooms that are simply too hot. Yes, Scripps would have to skip over 6 schools on the priority list in order to start the project immediately. However, only one of those schools, Crawford High, is also in the district Zone 3, or the hottest school zone, and needs air conditioning. We urge the board to reject the suggested priority list. Instead, we implore you to vote to begin work on both Crawford and Scripps Ranch High schools immediately. No student or teacher should have to be in a classroom that, if the conditions were similar in a hot car, would be considered criminal. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call up Tracy Jenkins, Lily McMillan, Karen Mooney, and Claudia Erickson.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Jenkins Martin, and my address is on file. I am principal at Johnson STEM Magnet Elementary, which is located in the Lincoln Cluster in Area 1. Last school year, the Johnson staff and community made the decision to move from a K-6 school to a K-5 configuration for the 2010-2011 school year. The main reason for this was to give our 6th graders the opportunity to have the full 6 through 8 middle school experience at Millennial Tech Middle School. As 6th graders going into 7th grade at MTM, there were less slots for the 6th graders as the class was already formed the year before. As part of the decision, Webster and Johnson Elementaries were guaranteed priority slots for all of the 5th graders who applied to MTM. As Area 1 considers the best option for creating a neighborhood middle school, I ask that this commitment to our students, priority enrollment to MTM, be honored so that they can continue the STEM focus that Johnson has fostered at the elementary level. Please keep this agreement intact. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Lily McMillan. I'm the principal at Porter Elementary, which is also in the Lincoln Cluster Area 1, and my address is also on file. I was appalled. I was just stunned when I took over the principalship at Porter on this past year to learn that we do not have a feeder school for our children. I was even more surprised on last evening when I learned that although the children have been forced out of their middle schools in the area, that they have to pay on city bus to get to what is called their feeder school, which is Mann Middle School. I was not aware of that. I thought a bus somewhere stopped in the community and picked the children up and took them down to Mann Middle School. And I found out last night that that is not so. And I just can't believe it. I'm here also tonight to say that we really do need a middle school. We need middle schools, really, in the Lincoln Cluster area. Our whole emphasis is to do the STEM focus. And as a fact, I'm not a magnet school, but we do also look at the STEM focus at Porter as well. We're also looking to look at the STEM focus at Knox when that reconstruction is built, and I'm sure they're doing STEM focus work at that school as well. We want to be able to prepare our students from the elementary school to the middle school to be able to feed into the Lincoln school. So at this point, I want us to have a program set where our children do not have to be forced into charter schools or do not have to be forced into their parents having to come out of their pockets for monies for them to get to school, and also for our parents not having to be forced to not be able to go to their children children's school to accompany them or to support them. So my goal tonight is to encourage you to support us in the 1,200 students at Knox and the up to 700 at the Millennium Tech with the proposal that's in place. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Karen Mooney. My address is on file. I am the principal at Nye Elementary, part of the Lincoln Cluster, and the proud 2010 Distinguished School Award winner. I had to add that. The students in the Lincoln feeder elementary schools deserve a legitimate educational pathway to high school. Our students are basically stranded. We have no comprehensive articulated instructional supports that transitions from elementary to middle and then again from middle to high school. My parents' only choices from Nye are to choice into whichever school happens to take them first, or to go to a school that's technically our feeder school. And in Nye's case, it is Bell, which is in the Morris cluster, even though we are the Lincoln cluster. It's often hard for Nye families to transport their children to Bell because it's so far away and in the Morris cluster. So I feel that's in our children's best interest to create an articulated pattern of attendance and to build appropriate academic supports across the cluster and get them operational as quickly as possible. There's no reason that our neighborhood should be the only one in San Diego without that option. Our children are making amazing academic gains, distinguished school, and they will all make us proud, but they need to have the same opportunity that everybody else in this district has. So giving our students access to Millennium Tech and Knox as a feeder middle school is a good way to start. Thank you.
My name's Claudia Erickson, and my address is on file, and I'm a parent at Millennial Tech. We're discussing facilities improvement for MTM tonight, among other things, and we definitely need those new structures, but we have concerns over proposed enrollment changes. MTM is a school of choice, as you've been hearing, and people choose it for its STEM emphasis. I come here from far and wide for science, technology, engineering, math. This is the core focus for kids. MTM is a diverse campus with 41% African American students, 37% Hispanic, 11% white, and 11% other. This is a campus where students of all backgrounds can work together in project-based learning because they have common goals. Students here are generally high achieving and highly motivated. They're here because they want to be here and they're eager. There are 515 students currently enrolled. At the present time, 252 students from Lincoln Elementary Schools attend MTM, and no student to date has been turned away, contrary to popular belief. We would like to propose a compromise to the board that we have a change in cluster percentages that will increase the opportunity for neighborhood students to attend. Making a new cluster, there are now 3 clusters, making a 0 cluster with Lincoln being its own at 40%, and then cluster 1, that being Claremont, Henry, La Jolla, Point Loma, Scripps Ranch, and UC High at 20%. Cluster 2, Kearney, Madison, Mira Mesa, Mission Bay, Morris, and Sarah also at 20%. And Cluster 3, Crawford, Hoover, and San Diego High at 20%. We would also ask that you allow MTM to remain a dedicated magnet through the choice program with the application process, and who currently serves and will serve students who are predominantly from the Morris-Lincoln cluster, along with other students who have chosen a STEM education from all over San Diego. It is the plan to continue to feed Lincoln High School with students who have chosen a STEM education, with the hopes that our students will enter Lincoln Center for Science and Engineering and continue their STEM studies. 23% of our 69 8th graders last year matriculated to Lincoln High School. I'm sure there will be many more in years to come. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's Amy Cabrera, Samuel Cabrera. I've got Julie Kramer. I don't know, Julie, if you want to speak again. Tacey Armstrong, and Christina Carr.
Hi, my name is Amy Cabrera. I live at 6960 Gulf Crest Drive, San Diego. I decided at the last minute to come and speak, so I don't have anything prepared. So I'll just speak to you from the heart as a mother. I have 2 children at Patrick Henry High School. We're here in support for the proposition to build the new facility for them. I have a senior who's in his 4th year in the engineering program, a wonderful program. I think the facility is really needed to help support the program and what the kids are trying to do, what the faculty there is trying to do, and to support, I think it's a statewide initiative to draw more engineering students into high school and college so that we can have more engineers in the workplace. My younger son is a junior. He's in the marching band. So obviously we support marching band. And the facility for that, during concert seasons, I'm embarrassed to say that I invite very few family and friends to come because it's such an embarrassment, the situation there. And lastly, I just want to say that as a single parent, I worked very hard for the past 12 years to expose my children to academics and the arts and all that, and to get them to where they are at today. And so I just respectfully request that you help continue them on that path so that they can be competitive in the workplace with the engineering and become strong model citizens as adults. And I think building the facility at Patrick Henry would go a long way in doing that. Thank you.
My name is Samuel Cabrera, and I live on 6960 Gulf Crest Drive. I am a senior at Patrick Henry High School, and I really want this auditorium to be built because today we had a presentation for only the seniors, and we had to move into the gym because there wasn't enough room for all the seniors to sit in our cafetorium, which only seats 300 people. Even though we were in the gym, there still wasn't enough room for all the seniors to be seated on a seat, and nearly about a tenth of us had to sit on the floor. It was really hard to enjoy the presentation that was given to us by Kaiser Permanente, and because after about 10 minutes, I got irritated by sitting there. Also, I am an engineering student, and in my freshman year, there was about 110 students that were enrolled to the engineering 4-year engineering program. As the years passed, the numbers became smaller and smaller, and now there are only about 11 of us in the 4th year of engineering. It's really sad because we were complaining about how there was a lack of materials and to really get the full experience of what an engineer does in the work environment. Right now, there's only one classroom that has the proper materials to cut and create projects, and only 4 students at a time can work in this back room because there are only about 3 bandsaws and 1 sander. If we get this auditorium and engineering facility complex, we will be able to have enough room to have more students work at once, and it looks better for us in a time management perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
Julie Zolan Kramer, and I'm the Vice President for the Point Loma Cluster Schools Foundation, and so I'm speaking from that role regarding the issue of Prop S funding. In listening to some of the other speakers, I think one of the underlying issues here is the fact that communities know what they need and when they need it. And I think that speaks a little bit to your 2020 vision about community-based decision making. So I'm here today to support some of the work that the Point Loma Cluster has been doing regarding its Prop S funding and its athletic facilities. We've really done our homework. We've engaged the community. We've had planning meetings. We've had surveys. And our community has a complete consensus that what we need is more athletic facilities for our very small campus, which, as you know, is probably around 15 acres, whereas there are other campuses that have up to 50, 60 acres. I would suspect that some people's athletic facilities are maybe bigger even than our campus. We have not just a complaint, but we actually have a solution, which is to develop a multi-purpose recreational facility field at Correa Middle, and we have complete support of that administration as well. Our community sees it as a way of serving the needs of the high school students, the middle school students, and the community, and both the boys and girls' physical education needs. We feel that this is a very doable situation if we are to take into consideration the Prop S funding that's been allotted to Point Loma High School and use that in a bigger context to include the field at Correa and possibly upgrading that. Again, we think that speaks to the equity issue around girls and boys sports, speaks to the equity issue around the size of the campus at Point Loma High vis-a-vis the other campuses across San Diego Unified School District. So again, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tacey Armstrong. I'm from Point Loma. My address is on file. I am representing thousands of parents in Point Loma, and I'm a parent of a 6th and an 8th grader. So I'm here to request that you keep the Prop S funds that were designated for Point Loma High School. That was originally to update the stadium and give us a press box and maybe have some lights and move that to our fields at Correa Middle School. And I understand that was canceled because of neighbor issues, which I am disappointed to hear, but that's the way it is. So let me read. Maybe I'll do better. I know that Point Loma does not have a big campus. We are only 15 acres, and Correa does have a huge field that right now is being used only for Point Loma baseball freshman team, and that's in the spring, and then every day for Correa athletics, which is PE every time. So we would like to be able to revamp the fields, and we're not asking for more money. We're just asking to use the money within Point Loma. Same thing, different location, but still in Point Loma. So we ask you to consider that when you make any votes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Carr, and my address is 8068 San Felipe, San Diego, California, 92114. And I am here on behalf of the Audubon PTA. I'm their president, and I'm here to talk about being bumped in our order that we are on the list for the AC at Audubon. My son is a second grader, and he's been there since kindergarten, and the classroom heat is just unbearable. It was in kindergarten, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, it's hard for them to learn in that type of environment when it's so hot. I've been trying to instill into my son the respect and to respectful, responsible, and ready, and I don't think it's very respectful to bump somebody off of a list for another school. I think everybody needs air, but I just don't want to be bumped on our order. We still want our air. We want it just like everyone else. We just want to stay in the order. Thank you.
Okay, Rachel Rivera, William Pennick, Karen Brooks, and Gary Rollins.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Rachel Rivera. I am also here regarding the Audubon air conditioning. I'm the secretary of the PTA. I also have a second grader there and 2 kindergartens there. I have twins. I have attended Audubon as a child, and the school hasn't changed much. It's come to my attention this evening that we are in jeopardy of losing our priority for the air conditioning, which really does concern me for several reasons. Now, everybody here has a very valid concern. All these children really need air conditioning, and I do agree in a priority waiting list. So with that, I'd like to say, when we were doing the Pledge of Allegiance, it was funny because I was listening and said, for justice for all, and I wholeheartedly believe that for everybody here deserves justice, and justice means fairness, and sometimes fairness means waiting our turn, and Audubon has waited a really long time for this. I'm very, very heavily involved in volunteering at school. I give my time as admin support, as help in the classroom, anything I can do to help the teachers, and it is extremely difficult having to watch these young kids deal with the heat at such a young age. I know there are other schools that need this as well, but I noticed that a lot of these kids get to go to their full-time nurses when they're having these symptoms of heat exhaustion, of anything, having to leave the classroom. Unfortunately, our kids don't have a full-time nurse to go to, so when they go to that hot nurse's office, there's nobody there to help comfort them. I'd also like to add that my daughter was actually affected by this and did faint at school last year because of heat exhaustion. I had to leave my work, panicked, stricken that my daughter fainted at school, not knowing what was going on with her, and she had heat exhaustion. I've actually purchased ice-cold water for the classrooms out of my own pocket because I don't know how to deal with this issue, so that was the best thing I could do, was to provide these kids cold water in bottles and refilling, and that's what we were doing for weeks at a time. We have special education children with moderate to severe disabilities who are breaking out in hives because our bungalows are they're so hot. The majority of the homes in our area, 80% of the homes in our area, do not have air conditioning, so there's no place for these children to go after school to help get some relief, as I know there are a lot of communities that do have these homes that have ACs, and it's much more comfortable for these kids to go and learn and try to get their homework done. Audubon has very aggressive goals for test score improvement, and I believe that by not bumping us out of order, allowing us to have our ACs will help get these kids to school, rather than the parents saying, oh honey, it's too hot for you to go to school, stay home. I'm going to go ahead and send you to this comfortable school where we do have AC, where you are going to learn what you need to learn for the day, and we're going to get those test scores up. We can't get the test scores up with these children at home. Again, I just want to let you know how very important this is to the parents and the community members of Lomita Village where we are. I actually invited quite a few of those parents here today, and unfortunately because of the means, they have no means of driving here, of getting here, so we would have had a lot more parent support. So I urge you, please don't bump us out of this list. This is so important to us, and I know 2017 is a long time to wait, but you have a guaranteed completion date, and if we get lost in the shuffle, we cannot guarantee that we're going to get this AC system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
My name is William Pennick, and I'm pretty sure my address is on record also. As a parent, community member, and advocate for the education of all of our children, I welcome the establishment of feeder schools for Lincoln High School. I also welcome that at last our neighborhood children will be coming home to the Millennium Tech Middle School, and when Knoxville converted to a K-8 school, to a K-8 middle school. What I haven't heard anyone say at this meeting concerning that is that this will slowly bring the district into compliance with supplement, not supplant, in accordance with the GAO report, Government Accounting Office report, of February 2003, in which there were no points of comparison with supplement, not supplant. Memo of June 27, 2002, not in compliance, Article 20, USC, Section 881, waiver pursuant, Title 34, SFC, Section 200.63, 3II, relating to supplement, not supplant, and comparability. And the CDE, California Department of Education, finding methodology used by district did not comply with 20 USC Section 6322C and Title 9, Part D, Section 9401, Subdivision C of the No Child Left Behind Public Law 110. The Federal Secretary of Education lacks authority to grant a waiver. Slowly, this could be it would come in, with the coming of our children back to our district. Title I funds would follow our children, and we can slowly come into compliance that we should have been in years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Brooks. My address is on file. I am a millennial parent. I'd like to remind you of your own mission statement, that you would graduate students with skills, motivation, curiosity, resilience, and drive to succeed. That's what MTM is fostering in my student. I think if you add 100 students more, you're going to lose some of that. I don't see how it's going to work as well as it works now. It kind of scares me what's going to happen. And frankly, if you open it up to the neighborhood, is that a guarantee that those kids are going to go to Lincoln? It's not. You can't guarantee that. We came from the Morris cluster. And frankly, if Lincoln offers what my daughter needs to become a pediatrician, she'll go to Lincoln. Or she'll go to Kearney, or she'll go to Point Loma, or she'll go to whatever school is going to help her achieve her goal. At this present time, it's millennial. And I'm sure there's lots of parents who feel that way. I have yet to see a parent from the neighborhood, and I've been to several of the site meetings at the elementary school. I've been to other more meetings here. I have yet to see a parent come forward who say, my child was refused. I guess they're out there because that's what I keep hearing, but I have yet to see one. I just want you to consider that adding that 100 students, if you want to make the changes, consider the compromise that was put forth to you by Ms. Erickson. It allows it still to be opened up to many areas, but still brings in more kids from the neighborhood. It's a good compromise, and I think hopefully it'll work for everybody. Thanks.
I get to say good evening, Superintendent Koba, board members. I'm Gary Rollins. I'm the principal of Knox, and I'm going to spell that because some people don't know how to spell it, as I found in another meeting. K-N-O-X. Many people in this auditorium have never been to Knox, as I'm aware, and I know, Superintendent Koba, you're planning to come there in a couple of weeks, so I welcome your visit. For those in the audience that want to see where Knox is, look it up on your Google phone and you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. We have 16 permanent buildings, so to speak, which we would call classrooms, and 26 portables, which are very old. Now, most of the discussion tonight was about creating a middle school for the Lincoln Cluster. And as we discussed the feeder school for the Lincoln Cluster, I'd like to reflect on some of the past practices. We created kind of a bubble around Lincoln by sending students to 50 different middle schools and then asking them to come back. And when you talk to kids, we talked a lot about what was good for kids, but most of the conversation didn't talk about kids. And as I know, kids decide to go to school based on where their friends go to school. So one of the things that's happened is with the 50 middle schools, kids make friends in those areas, and then they feed into other high schools. Those kids follow their friends to different high schools. We're asking them to come back to Lincoln. We're creating programs for Lincoln, and Lincoln has wonderful programs. But kids don't look at programs the way parents look at programs. Kids look at programs the way their friends look at programs. So if their friends are at other schools, they go to other schools. So we need to remove the bubble from Lincoln and allow students to have friends in the neighborhood that they go to school with, that go to Lincoln, so that they can go to school with their friends at Lincoln. And that's one way to create that change in the bubble. Knox is a great school to change at this time. We're late on our Prop S, as you know, and if we can change our Prop S timing and create a middle school at Knox, that may be good for the community. A middle school or a K-8, in either case, needs to be upgraded, but the middle school would allow us to have more students at Knox in the area that don't have to bus out and walk great distances to some of the other middle schools. And then they could walk within 10 minutes, as I know, because they come from Lincoln and they're at my school in 10 minutes to visit. So they can do that walk. That's not a problem. And if our community has a middle school that can feed into Lincoln, our students will go. And other students from other areas will come, and we can build Lincoln from within instead of trying to build it from without. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And last speaker, Elizabeth Rush.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Rush. My address is on file. And I'm the coordinator at Claremont High School of the Academy Business of Technology, and I'll be addressing the Prop 1D proposal, which is going to hopefully bring a state-of-the-art business learning facility to our 50-year-old site at Claremont High School. I want to tell you a little bit about our program and our students. The Academy of Business and Technology, the kids call it the AOBT, we're a unique collaborative learning community, and we're expanding. We currently have 100 students, 5 staff, and 25 committed business partners, and that's growing as well. We are dedicated to providing an interactive career integrated technology program for our students to really prepare them for the real world. In our academy, we offer students really unique opportunities such as business courses integrated with our core curriculum, entrepreneurship training. Our seniors last year formed their own company. We offer a mentorship program to every single one of our juniors. We pair them one-on-one with great caliber mentors such as FBI agents, attorneys, federal court judges, even Superintendent Koba volunteered to mentor this year. And it's a great opportunity for our students. Just so you know the makeup of our students, 80% of them are classified as economically disadvantaged. Last year, 75% of our graduating AOBT class were the first in their family to ever enroll at a college or university. And despite their adversity, they've been really successful. Their test scores are higher. They scored over 20% higher on their CSTs than the Claremont average at our high school. They 100% graduate every year, and 99% go on to a college or university. The proposed building for our program would be an incredible opportunity to expand our curriculum and our partnerships and our district-wide collaboration. With the capabilities of the proposed building, we'd be moving out of sort of an outdated computer lab where things often overheat and die, as I'm sure you've been hearing today, to a place where we can give them hands-on finance training and prepare them for great business programs like the program at San Diego State. We know that academies and career technical education are really the future of education right now, and we feel that this proposal is the way to go onward with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Superintendent, I know that we've got a number of items sort of wrapped up into this Prop S, but I think in respect to the folks who are here, we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago about a number of projects that we need to take action on tonight, and I wonder if we could just move to page 19 of the PowerPoint and get at these projects one by one. It might be worth, though, taking as the first action item the ICOC recommendation around donated cash and charitable gifting, because it could inform our others. And I know we've got our ICOC officers here today.
Okay, I think we can proceed with that expedited approach.
Yeah.
We're prepared to answer any questions. The ICOC here is available for your questions on this item.
Well, I wonder if Gil, if you might come up and give us a little overview of the policy.
Would be delighted.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
Good evening, President Pereira, Mr. Koba, and remaining board members. My name is Gil Johnson. I'm chair of the ICOC Prop S. With me is our vice chair, Mr. Pinson, and we won't take a lot of time because we did send a memo or a recommendation to the board approximately a month ago, and it really spoke to charitable giving and cash giving. And the intent of that, which I think you have in front of you, the intent of the memo is to look at equity and balance. One of the phrases that we use in the memo is that we do not want to create an environment where we have and have not. And our concern was that perhaps those areas that had resources, and those resources could be in the form of financial resources or even in-kind resources, that they could not buy their way up into the list. But those communities that did not have those same resources, and I stress the fact that they're not necessarily financial. As an example, if a person has a construction company and they can use that equipment, that's another way of really addressing the issue. And in another community, if they did not have those capabilities, where would they be? So in order to maintain equity and in order to maintain balance, we are saying that anything over $50,000 in terms of charitable gifting really needs to go before the board, and you guys need to make a decision. Now, we can make a recommendation, but the decision is clearly in the hands of the board. The other thing that we are really focusing on here is that at the end of the day, it's all about the academics and the scores and the grades of the children and whether or not the children graduate. So let's not set up an environment where perhaps some schools could indeed get their projects accelerated, and I heard that comment tonight. We have a plan. I think that plan needs to be worked. We need to stay within those guidelines. But being realistic, we are all strapped for monies. If there are dollars available, we don't really want to turn away from those dollars either, which is a similar discussion that we have with CTE. We don't want to move away from CTE because those are indeed matching funds. But we just need to do it with justice, integrity, and make sure that we serve all of our communities and not just some of them. Mr. Penson, would you like to add something?
Well, I think you covered it well.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Ms. Jackson?
So I'm just looking at what one page is referring to, correct? This one pager?
Correct.
So that means if someone wants to give something less, like $49,000, that's okay. We'll take it.
Works that way, doesn't it?
Okay.
Yes, it does.
And that is a change to our policy that is written in our binder as well. And so I think that point needs to be made very clear, because what happens then is that someone can come up, and if you're saying that we're going to make a limit, and I think the question should be to the board, what are the limits that we want to have? Because if people are coming together and we're saying they can give under $50,000 and a group of them come together and I'll give $45,000, then they're below that limit, but they still have enough funding to do a project. And so that would concern me. Okay? I mean, am I off key here?
Yeah, I don't think that's the way it reads, Ms. Jackson, because first of all, it's aggregate. And
this says excess of $50,000. Doesn't mean, so in this one sheet, it doesn't say what you were saying. Okay, and which is why it concerns me, because I like things in black and white, and this sheet here, it says the Board of Education should review and approve the acceptance of any donations of cash or materials and accept the $50,000 toward any facility-related project, whether single or community. Okay, so I can see that.
That's the optimum word.
Okay,
right?
Okay, but in our old policy, so I guess the question is that in here also it's included in our binder, our old policy, which has a limit of $500, which is what the policy is as far as gifts and donations. And I guess what really should be happening, if we're going to supersede this policy, these two, because this is in here tonight for some reason too. What's the purpose of this policy here being here tonight?
Okay, I'm not aware of that. That is a board policy. The ICOC
this is a board policy.
Does not have the authority to change a board. So what we have here is a recommendation as to what we feel that the policy should be at that.
So I think what should have happened, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, I'm not kind of overshadow the staff here. What should have happened then is this should have been marked up for us to approve a new policy regarding donations for the district. Is that correct?
I can't speak to that because I didn't know the policy existed.
Superintendent, is that correct?
I think that we have actually two different parts of a common issue here. The attachment I think you're looking at, Trustee Jackson, is our administrative procedure for community relations acceptance of gifts. But I think it's just gifts in general. Where the ICOC is focused is on construction projects and donations of either money or service in kind for construction. What's connected here is the only existing policy, I think, on acceptance of gifts, a 1999 guidance that does not address large dollar value construction.
Exactly. So I'm just saying that should have been, are we going to include that in this new policy at all, or is this going to be a separate policy?
We're recommending that it's a separate policy because the district has many policies, but what we're looking at is bricks and mortar and the implementation of Prop S.
I guess my point is if it's going to be a policy, it should be on letterhead written as a policy for us to recommend, to approve, and I don't see that here.
Well, I'm sure that we can put it on letterhead if that's...
Well, I mean, coming from the staff, through the staff, processes, however it goes.
I think that this was a recommendation of the ICOC for, I think, consideration to the board, and based on board direction, we can go forward.
But it is a staff recommendation, I understand, to adopt.
It's an ICOC recommendation.
It's an ICOC recommendation, but I also understand that staff is recommending that the board approve.
We support the ICOC recommendation.
Yeah, I think we have, a procedural issue here.
Absolutely.
We see our role as the ICOC is to make recommendations to the board. That's really why we were formed.
Yeah.
And in terms of the formatting in the presentation, we leave that in your capable hands as to how that is really done, because I don't know that we have those expertise.
Okay.
I mean, I agree. I'm just saying, because if you want us to approve this, then the staff, are we giving guidance tonight? Because this has to go through a legal review as well. And that's my whole point, is we should be approving something that has not been vetted through all the proper channels. And if you're recommending this to us to think about it, okay. But are you asking us then to send it to staff for full vetting, legal vetting, and everything else? And that should be, yes.
On page 3 of the PowerPoint presentation, with regard to this particular item, staff is requesting direction from the board, so that we can go back and make any changes or put it in the correct format. But as you'll see, it clearly states we're looking for direction from you.
Well, Ms. Jackson, perhaps I can help here. The ICOC drafted a letter, one of 3, to the Board of Education in June and July timeframe, and this was one of them. And we've been anxious to get this policy to the board quickly because we've got a plethora of people that are bringing projects forward. This week I learned of an NFL grant opportunity. And without this kind of direction, I can't frame our responses and so forth to get an answer. What we're looking for is basically your guidance on a template for Prop S capital improvement projects, not for general donations in kind or various other things. And this is, to me, a good opportunity for us to clarify that so we address the concerns that the ICOC had.
We've had these projects come before us. NFL has given us money for fields throughout the district from... Morse High, I think, is probably the one you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am. Well, this is one following Morse.
Okay, so we've got, then that's not, we've just approved them. So what would be the difference?
I think we're putting a common structure in place so that these things come through a certain process, and these steps would include the impacts on the bond in time, the impacts of equity, impacts of whether this opportunity is actually something that's going to come to fruition, and give us a template.
But we do that. We make that professional assessment every time, and that and a multitude of other factors as well. Every time they come in front of us, we assess all of that.
We have not codified that. This is what our goal was.
I don't know that we need to codify everything.
Let me go back to what I think the role of the ICOC is and what we attempted to do in these 3 documents, the one specific one that we're talking about right now, and that was to provide recommendations to the board in terms of how we saw implementing Prop S and the steps that need to be taken. So this was one of the recommendations, because we were getting a lot of moving parts, a lot of projects moving around, and really what we did see is in some communities where in-kind resources were available, that was being used as a lever to supersede some of the projects. So that's why we were very concerned about maintaining equity and a level playing field.
Like what? I'm not familiar with any projects.
Dr. Evans.
Major gifts? Sorry. You go ahead. Well, I'm just not aware of any major gifts that are coming that have made a project jump ahead. Like what?
There has been, Mr. Markey, there's been several projects where that's...
A terrific example would be the Point, or the La Jolla Muirlands playing field, athletic field.
Okay.
Community came together. They had some resources in kind. They had some money. We had some Prop S funds. We matched them, and we built an athletic site out at Muirlands early in the bond program, and that was mid 2009, late 2009.
So one.
No, there's been others that's been in discussion.
Okay.
Well, one of a great example is the NFL grant we got at Morris.
Right. Which pushed Morris forward, which would, I'm a community that really needed it for a very, very long time. That project was way overdue.
There's a greenhouse initiative that's underway now, and we get a lot of these applications quite frequently.
Okay. First of all, thank you for bringing this forward. I think this is useful. I mean, I agree with Ms. Nakamura in terms of, yes, we have been addressing them as these issues do come up, but I think it is good to have clarified, even though it's not up on the board there, we have a list of questions. What will be the impact of this gift? Are operating costs included? How is this going to affect other projects on the schedule and so forth? Because I don't believe it's possible for us, or would be right for us, to come up with a policy to say, if you pay a certain amount of money, your project can move forward. Exactly. And I also don't think it would be good to have a policy that say, if you add money to a particular project, that it will not be moved forward. I think we have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. And I think the two examples that were given, I think it was, just off the top of my head, it was $500,000 from the community and $500,000 from the district funds or the Prop S funds. That was, it helped that one to move forward, but it also added a lot of money to the general district fund. And then the other example was the Morris High School that had a $250,000 grant from the NFL that was about to run out, and they were going to take it back. And since it was something, as Ms. Nakamura said, we were going to have to do eventually anyway, that's the reason to do it. But what I like is the fact that you're bringing up the fact that we have to weigh out all these factors. There's not one size fits all. There's not one answer for every situation. We have to look at it as we're going along, because everything we're approving is affecting something else.
Mr. Evans, I could not agree with you more, and I think I at least attempted to say that. There are in some instances where it really makes sense to do that, because if you're going to lose a grant, as an example, and that grant could help the general fund, of course you have to take advantage of it, and that's why
if we really want that, I mean, but not even automatically, because if that particular project is already a priority of the district, whereas if we'll pay the grant will pay half and we pay the other half, but it's not necessarily something we're going to do anyway, then we'd have to.
Well, and that's why we defer to you, because we really think that it's deeper than this, because one of the points that you touched on is there operating funds associated? If you make a decision, what's the impact of that? If you make a decision, what is the impact of things that are outside of Prop S? How does it impact that? So we need to look at it holistically.
And what I think you're providing to us is basically a framework of analysis. That's questions to ask as we consider,
whether you need board direction for.
Yeah, I'm not
understanding why you need board direction. I think that these questions should be asked, period. If something comes forward, I think, Mr. Markey, where are you? Let me see your face. You know how we feel about each other. So let's come on up here.
Lions 7, Christians nothing.
Okay, thank you. But anyway, I feel very, very strongly that we're supposed to do these questions anyway. So
I think we do a pretty good job.
So the question though is, your staff. I guess my point is, your staff spend a lot of time working on our Prop S schedule.
Absolutely.
A tremendous amount of time. A tremendous amount of factors went into making that Prop S schedule. And so much so, I know that as we have people come forth and want to do different things, the comment has been that when the schedule was done, ICOC, your job is to oversee, when the schedule was done, we took in consideration almost each and everything. So the schedule should stay intact. If someone comes, it's only, to me, appropriate that the staff would
look at this and everything else.
Yeah. So I guess, if you want us to, I don't know why we have to approve what you're already doing. That's what I'm not understanding.
Well, we try our best, at that, and weigh all the factors and bring these to the Board of Education. And you're not shy, and you really try to get into our plan to make sure it's sound. And we need that, and it's a good thing. I think what the ICOC did is a genuine effort to say that equity and fairness have to be paramount because we're in a district that have unequal resources. And the job of the district as well as the board is to ensure equity throughout.
Thank you.
And that was their signal.
Okay.
Thank you, Gil.
So,
appreciate it.
I guess do we want to have a motion to approve? I'm asking if we have a motion, and then we can see if we want to move this conversation forward. So,
well, the staff is asking for direction.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's parliamentarily a motion or an action, but I certainly support giving direct. I think that it's not listed up there, but there are 8 very excellent questions about how this donation will affect things, and just the fact that we want these to be for the staff, for the board to say we want the staff to consider to bring us information on these 8 questions. When they bring an item of a $100,000 contribution to the board, they will also bring us the answer to these 8 questions so that we can make a decision.
Okay.
So I would move that that's what we do.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? I will second.
Okay,
I will second that motion.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion on this issue?
Yeah, I just a recent experience came to my attention, and that was in an effort to codify, which usually means a bunch of lawyers got involved in the game, and it's generally a CYA situation. It completely killed a program in another organization. All well-intended, sounded really great, and then it killed it. I don't see how codifying this really helps. We're already doing it. Okay. We're already doing it.
Okay, well, we've got a motion and a second, so please vote.
Hold on a second.
All right.
Okay. On this issue, on that, what it is there's a policy and there's a procedure on how to accept this money. There isn't a clear one right now. And when you say codify, what it means is everybody got into this big mix and everything got messed up and everybody took the money back and they said, they just don't have their stuff in straight. If you had a policy and a procedure in place, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to accept it. These are the 8 questions that we're going to ask about this. It would make it a lot easier for people to not run out of time, to not have the NFL or whoever it was that was giving the money to be able to say, okay, they've got their ducks in a row, they know what they're doing with it, fine, we're comfortable with it, and the children can benefit from those good donations and those gifts. That's
okay.
it. Simple.
Clear the board. Revote.
I think my colleague stated it very well, because one of the things that I don't think that we realized that there was a board policy in place. The other thing is we're making suggestions, we're making recommendations, because we are dealing with these as a volunteer group on a day-to-day basis where people are saying, well, if I do this, will you do that? If I do this, will you do that? We need some means of saying, here are the rules, and everyone has to play by those rules.
So we've got a motion and a second to give direction to staff to use the framework that the ICOC is recommending to us with the list of questions in considering these issues and then bring them to the board. So can we please vote on this?
Going to do it anyway.
Don't kill the golden goose here, guys, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Oh, we're the golden goose?
It's unanimous.
Okay. So why don't we then move to slide 19, which we've not got on the board.
19.
I move the Career Tech projects. That's the first one that's up there.
Okay, so we've got a motion to move all of the Career Tech Ed projects. Do we have a second to that?
Hold on a second. When we say all of the Career Tech Ed projects...
Yeah, we are talking about...
Are we talking about Henry and Claremont?
Yes, Henry is included, Claremont is included.
Okay,
all of the projects...
Right. I'm looking at
up to page 27.
Our first page in our board docs, and item number 2, it says approved Prop Ed's matching funds for 5 career technical remodel projects: Hoover High, Mira Mesa, SciTech, San Diego High, SCPA.
All right.
Okay.
Your motion is to those 5?
No, I'm going to the rest of them.
Okay.
And then it says number 3, direction to matching funds for Claremont and Henry.
Okay.
Okay.
So Ms. Jackson, your motion is for all 7 of those.
Right.
Yeah.
Items 2 and 3 in our packet.
Now, wait a minute here, you guys. I made a PowerPoint presentation and everything. I'm prepared for a fight. You're making this entirely too easy.
Making it too easy, yeah.
Okay.
Please don't fight me later. We'll get
I spent 2 days on a PowerPoint presentation.
We've got a motion and a second.
Just don't fight me later. We'll get along fine.
Do we have a second yet to move the...
I moved.
Got a motion.
Okay, I want people afterwards to stay for my PowerPoint presentation.
That's right.
All right.
Well into the night.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
There's
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
And because we have deprived Mrs. Nakamura of, at least for now, presenting her PowerPoint, I would like to personally thank Mrs. Nakamura for her legacy. I know that Mrs. Nakamura has made it an absolute, not just a priority, but it's made it a mission to see that the students at Patrick Henry have an adequate performing arts center. And tonight she's getting that done with the support of the community. So I want to thank Mrs. Nakamura and thank the community.
I have to take a moment and say thank you to an awesome community and people who really love their school and really come out and talk about what is needed. There were a lot of community meetings and there was a lot of effort that went into this. And if I've got their fingerprints all over my back from pushing, this has got to get done. So thank you.
Okay, so now we'll move on to the Mission Bay High School schedule. Again, do you want to maybe just quickly summarize what the action is that we're considering tonight, Stuart?
Yes, we've been in discussion with the Mission Bay community, a great bunch of boosters and folks that have the interest of the students at heart since September 2010. I think we put several hundred hours in there on their project. We've all been out to the field. We've looked at the condition. There's no doubt about the need to do a lot of work out there. I think most of you have been out to that site as well. The question is when. The district has recognized the need for some wholesale improvements out there. The current schedule is that we award the contract in 2013, and the construction would be completed around 2014. The earliest possible schedule is August 2012, with construction complete in 2013. The whole site modernization starts in 2015. If we move the schedule up to the left, then this project will become will be ahead of a number of other ones. I need to give you some background on why we did the ones we did. San Diego High School and Mira Mesa High School were completed early in the bond program, and that was because we had this surface in there called Astroplex, and it failed. It was an inadequate product. It was put in to some degree over the district's objections by boosters that found the money in the program. This is getting back to, are these viable projects in our last discussion. We've got Morris completed because of an NFL grant. We had an Office of Civil Rights complaint at Claremont. We had 2 sites at Lincoln and Scripps because of warranty issues, and those were replaced at no cost to the district. We have not been arbitrary or capricious in how we've created these schedules. We've gone through a great deal of effort to do so. I can't support moving this project up any further in the schedule, moving it to the left, when we have other sites that were equal or worse in condition than this one.
Okay. So let me just ask board members, is there a motion to move up the Mission Bay High School project on the schedule? There's no motion, so we will
maintain it where it is.
Maintain according to schedule.
Sir.
Okay. Next, Scripps Ranch High School air conditioning. Again, Stuart, could you quickly summarize the action that we're considering here?
The action is to propose moving this project up as soon as possible in the schedule, which would be start that immediately. Again, we're in a situation where we've got many hot schools. You know, if you go back to 12 years ago, indeed, there was a grand jury investigation, and the district responded to it. We put 300 sensors throughout the district. We measured temperatures for somewhere around 18 months. I wasn't here at the time, but this is what I've learned since then. We had a study that was done that took another 15 months. But academic folks and district people and engineers looked at the whole spectrum of heat stress conditions in the district and put a priority list together that I think I forwarded to everybody last week, which shows you where they are on the list.
Okay. What do we do?
It's terrible that these schools were built without that capacity at the period of time that they were built. And that was decisions that were made based on the economic conditions at the time and money that people had. I can't go back and undo it. Truthfully, if we move that project up, I need to do it in the whole site modernization context because the degree of sophistication of the work, the amount of things that we have to get into. You know, this is not easy. It's not putting a wall unit in or slapping something on the ceiling. We've got Title 24 issues. We've got a lot of other things that need to be done concurrent to that. Shell improvements. I can't just put the AC in without fixing the windows and the doors and the insulation. This is by law. It's not a choice. So if you choose to move it up, schools will be displaced. Somebody will have to come after the school. Some of them are in worse shape than this one. Nobody wants to wait till 2017. I appreciate that. But that is where they are in the schedule.
Can I ask you, Stuart, one of the speakers talked about a proposal of moving both Scripps Ranch and Crawford air conditioning projects. Can you comment on the impact of that?
We certainly could do that, but it would be a displacement in funds and cash and priority. If you'd like me to come back with the impact on that, I certainly would be happy to. I can't address that now, but again, we're back in what do we do with Patrick Henry? What do we do with Morse? What do we do with Roosevelt? What do we do with all these other ones out there? We've got 60 schools on the list. $250 million worth of HVAC work that's been scheduled. We've got issues at all the hot schools. And, you know, we had the folks here tonight talking about, hey, you know, if you move them up, we're going to get bumped. And my children are going to be just as uncomfortable as they are now, but they're going to have to wait a little bit. Fortunately, we had a little bit more money this year. We got $200 million, and that site was moved up 79 months to where they are from where they used to be. And I think they're ecstatic. Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I think it's really important, and especially that Scripps Ranch has brought this point forward, and it's pretty disturbing that we actually have 60 schools on, disturbing that we can't do it right away. 60 schools basically on the hot school list that by Prop S, these 60 schools have basically been promised that they will have air conditioning, right? And then, of course...
Well, they are going to get air conditioning.
Right. That's exactly. They've been promised to have air conditioning through Prop S. And obviously, Prop S time scale has shifted a lot according to what's going on with the economy. So even if we put the air conditioning in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 of these, there'd still be 50-some others that were not moved forward. And I guess the other issue we would have to look at is that I would hope that if we are not going to have immediate air conditioning at these schools, and I'm sure we have it already, but I mean just to clarify with the superintendent, we have a very clear policy on what would happen in the event of severe heat.
Where I grew up, we had the opposite problem. We had snow days.
Right.
You know, we had days that you just couldn't physically get to the site, or it was too cold, or whatever. You know, we need, I think, to look at a comprehensive heat stress issue. Heat exhaustion's way too late.
Right.
But you know, the human body is not as robust as we think in these climates. So this is heat, humidity, and a lot of other things that we can measure to find out at what point in time do you call it quits for the day on those heat stress conditions, heat stress days. And that's a broader discussion, that a policy issue I think that needs to be had at the district. We can put fans in and all those sorts of things, but when it's 110, it's 110. And that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that when you have a snow day, though, it is, it's going to be a snow day. A lot of times when it's this hot, we have no idea. And we can't send children home to an empty house where there may or may not be air conditioning, where there may or may not, and most likely is not, someone there waiting for them. I agree that we need some sort of a policy that needs to be in place, but I do think that the board needs to be aware that, Proposition S, when we had over 1,000 people look at Proposition S, we went to every cluster. We didn't double up on clusters. We went to every single high school, and we asked them to talk about what it was that they wanted. Air conditioning was near the top of the list. So there's this expectation of relief. And I do agree that there are other schools throughout the district. I mean, it's hot, it's hot all over, but can we do something where if we can't do an entire facility where we can, is there buildings that we can have certain, we can have enough buildings where we can put children who are overheated, do something? I think
that's an excellent suggestion, and I will take that for action, especially at Scripps Ranch and other places where we've got common areas.
Right.
That, in offices, and right now we're doing a lot of work on libraries and so forth throughout the district right now in air conditioning installations. But I will absolutely very aggressively get into that situation at Scripps Ranch High School. Common offices, nurses' offices, and some of the places that they even went so far to put these swamp coolers in out there, and they're ineffective and they're not used. And
they're not.
So,
but it's a matter of. It's also somewhere.
Yes,
it's a matter of dressing. I dressed too warmly today for this evening. You don't always know what to wear in this climate in the middle of.
But the broader policy, I think, is something that I think I encourage the board to direct us to do.
Well, so on this specific issue, we would require a motion to move the Scripps Ranch air conditioning ahead in the schedule. But I do want to. I guess the question, Superintendent, is: do we have an existing policy regarding heat and its health and safety effects?
We have a hot weather policy, which talks to appropriate clothing for the children, physical activity at a campus, the use of hydration water to make sure that everyone is somewhat comfortable going outdoors in case of overheated facilities. I think the issue here is should we make a decision, incorporate into the policy, a point in time where we've declared that school will be closed or stopped for that given day, and just simply say you've reached a temperature. I think what you have here is a very complex problem. You have 60 schools on a list, and over a couple $100 million worth of scheduling that has to occur. There's just no way to move this list in a way that would be equitable for the entire community. So what do you do in the meantime? Or do you start moving programs up and down, probably with questions of equity, questions of additional cost? We could take a look at a policy issue here and make some aggressive determinations about when we would secure a school on a hot day.
So maybe,
but with the restoration of a hot day requirement.
If I can, this district is 200 square miles.
Yes.
And on this eastern side of the district, it is not the same, when you get coastal breezes. It is sweltering. I've mentioned several times, that I've had candles melt in my kitchen drawers because it can get that hot on the eastern side. It's very different. So it can't be a district-wide policy. It has to be a policy in relationship to the schools themselves, and how are we going to get kids home, or how are we going to have common areas where they can cool down, because it's not... and it's a matter of acclimation as well. When I was in school in dare I say, I went to elementary school in Bakersfield. Don't hold that against me. But when I was it had to be 110 degrees before we would get out. That was the policy. And when I went to Long Beach, we got out when it was 100. I was shocked. What was the problem? I didn't understand. And but kids today are not acclimated the way we were. There were no choices. There was maybe one family in our neighborhood had air conditioning and a pool, which seemed unfair. But kids aren't acclimated. They're not used to this heat anymore, and most of us, living in air-conditioned comfort at work and frequently at home. We need a policy. At the very least.
So I think you're hearing consensus from the board that in a timely manner, we'd ask the staff to come back to us with a comprehensive policy, really to ensure the health and safety of kids, to protect them from heat. So is that? Yeah.
I understand completely. Okay. We'll take a look at that policy, ramp it to make it more aggressive and focused on specific scenarios across the district.
So with that in place, let me just ask the board, is there a motion to move the Scripps Ranch High School air conditioning project ahead in the schedule?
I'm going to make the motion. I don't think I'm going to get a second for it, but it is a school that was designed. The ductwork is already in place, as opposed to other schools. And I know you'd have to change out the windows, but the ductwork's in place. I have learned actually that you can open the windows, which in the past, I thought that was not a possibility. But I think we may get this moved up just based on a lawsuit with special education students, and I think someone's going to bring us a lawsuit. So I'm moving approval, and if we don't get a second, I leave that to my colleagues.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second? Nope. Okay. We'll move on.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the question of the Lincoln Area Middle School and Millennial Tech. These two, I think, are related, but Stuart, again,
yes, sir. The issue of the Lincoln Middle School is the clusters that, as you know, the district has no district middle school to feed Lincoln High School. And the proposal is to convert Knox K-8 to a middle school, and then expand the capacity at Millennial Tech to 700, which is an additional 100 students. We talked in some depth about that last week. There has been a change in how we would approach the issue. Whereas in the original proposal at Millennial Tech, we thought that it would take about $7 to $8 million to do this, but we've come back with a different way to approach this, and we think we can do it not to exceed $4 million, and that's largely through a modification of a building that was approved by the Board of Education last summer, and it's an L-shaped academic 2-story building. We think we can put another story on it. It's a little bit cheaper. I think it's a better technical solution for the school site. We would not have to get into a lot of construction work and build a gymnasium and so forth. My recommendation to the board on this is that if we're going to go ahead and build a capacity there, then we do it properly, and that we don't make do. We're building 50-year-old buildings, 50 years in the last 50 to 60, sometimes 70 years. And a good 3-story building there with the right space per square foot for the students, 1,960 square foot classrooms are exactly what we would need. I think we're going to come in under that as well. So this is not to exceed $4 million. Our plan for Knox is to continue with the renovation that we have underway. We've got plenty of money in the budget for the current renovation, which is $20 million in the program and about $16 million in construction cost. To convert that to a middle school requires a little bit more money for athletics, food service, bathroom renovations, and so forth. It's not a wholesale increase in the budget, but it's a little bit more. I think that's a great solution. I'm fully in support of it from a technical perspective, and I think they've got a great plan out there for Knox. Millennial is a little harder, but I think we can get there as well with another $4 million.
I just want a clarifying question. The Millennial Tech proposal that you're bringing tonight, Stuart, does that proposal in any way talk about enrollment changes? Does it talk about the magnet status of the school? or are we just simply talking about a physical construction?
You know, my piece in this challenge is to look at how would I support another 100 students on that campus, going from 600 to 700.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to separate. And first of all, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Knox plan.
Second.
You've got a motion and a second to approve the Knox plan. Any comment? If not,
yes.
please.
Where's the principal? I want you to know I put 30 people on a bus when we did the bus tour for Prop S, and I took them to your school.
You were the poster. Okay. That's why we got it approved.
You were.
So
that's
bad.
right. So okay.
So bad.
So all this business that nobody's been to Knox.
Yeah. I've had many people in this auditorium haven't been there.
Okay, all right. I just want you to, realize.
We've got a motion and a second to approve the Knox.
I haven't been there, and I'm still approving it.
And you're still approving it. Okay, great. That passes 4-0. Bill,
I appreciate the support for Knox Middle School. I think absolutely will fill a big hole in the community. And having been through the oldest portables in the district at Knox 2 years ago, I recognize that need to fix the school. The question about the academic linkage to Millennial Tech, I think in behalf of where Stu is in this, Stu's here to debrief just the construction piece. And I would tell you that I think the academic strategy has to be in some way separated from what Stu can tell you right now. He has clearly got a plan of action for a new middle school at Knox. He has an option for increasing the capacity at Millennial Tech by 100 to 700 with a clear-cut sensitivity to the entire campus, including co-sharing with Gompers Preparatory. I think the issue of the allocation of students to Millennial Tech at a capacity of 700, and whether it's by cluster or district-wide magnet, is a separate issue. And, I've talked with Trustee Jackson about it before. I know there's been community meetings, but I think you have to deal with that one a little bit off on one side as compared to the construction project, if I could just suggest that to you.
So it's a little wrapped up together because there's been this talk about increasing and then residential increase versus magnet and so forth, and yet at the same time we're talking about the whole construction issue. And so without having resolved that first issue that I brought up, then there's a question of what size are we building it for. And then the other question I wanted to ask Mr. Markey was, sometime back we went over sort of a combined master plan for Gompers and for Millennial Tech.
Well, the district's committed to not encroach on the agreement that we have with with Gompers.
Okay, so
this plan does not encroach on that agreement.
Okay, but it's just so I understand encroach, because that could be acreage, but it also, in terms of, it doesn't change any of the schedule.
It will impact schedule. It will, because right now my plans for the two-story building are about halfway through design. Right. I have to stop the design, start all over again, get the design, and that's going to take 6 or 7 months.
So how does that affect the Gompers?
Well, the impact is that it will delay the time that it takes to get out of the portable classrooms. The idea would be that we've got all these portables on the site, and some of them were sitting on a piece of property out there that we're going to convert into a really nice athletic field.
Just before I get confused, when you're talking about the three-story building, you're talking about a three-story building at Millennial Tech?
Right, at Millennial Tech.
And so how this being done faster, slower, how this affects building at Gompers is what?
Gompers and Millennial Tech and the district got together about a year ago and created a site master plan for not only the campus academic facilities but also for the athletic fields. And we had to place some portable classrooms on some property that we're going to develop into an athletic field.
Right.
And that moving the portable classrooms off that field is contingent upon completing the two-story academic building. Because I have to start all over again with design, we can't, and this was a block building, it was 2 stories. I can't go up 3 stories with a block building. It isn't as easy as just, it's not a layer cake. So we're going to have a little bit more time. It's going to take a little bit more time before we move those portables. In the end, I think this is going to be a handsome building that's going to increase the desirability of that whole site. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, but it will impact that schedule. And I've talked to the Gompers folks a little bit about that, and we haven't really figured out how much yet because we haven't got there. But that will be the impact. But other than that, we're not taking any more property. We're not moving boundary lines. We're not changing our agreement. It's just a time issue.
Okay, so if we were to continue with the two-story building, and we were not looking at increasing the enrollments of Millennial Tech, does that, first of all, does that fit together? I mean, if we were not going to increase, we could stick with a two-story building.
Oh, yeah, then we're there. I mean, there'd be no change to our current construction plan.
So when we're looking at, that's just what I understand about our decision process, we're looking at the three-story building, we're really looking at approving this change of plan for Millennial Tech. So we can't really address that construction issue until we've made a decision about Millennial Tech, magnet, residential, STEM, all of that kind of issue. So
my part of the discussion and my piece of the discussion is I enable this. I'm the enabler. If I do this, then we get to 100 seats, and we can move forward.
So you've actually moved ahead and said if the board were to want to approve a larger enrollment for Millennial, this is what we would do.
This is what we would do.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
But okay,
this is how we would do it.
Right. So we have to step back, in my opinion.
We came before you last time and said that we had thought that we would build a gymnasium with 4 classrooms over there, and then add 2 classrooms on the other site. But in retrospect, we've come back and relooked at that plan and said that it's best. We're best served by just making the academic building bigger.
Have we had a conversation at Millennial Tech with the parents and the teachers and the principal and the staff and the community about this idea of a 3-story building?
I'm not privy to that.
Okay.
So I'm sure that Nellie and the area superintendent are more able to discuss that.
Let me share this because I think that there's a lot of other things to be considered as well. First of all, and I did ask this question, I probably should have asked it a little bit differently, the approving of a middle school feeder for Lincoln as one entity. And I was, I guess informed that rather than breaking it out into an academic part and a facilities part, they combined it all together. But one of the concerns that we have, and when you look at the Lincoln, and what we don't have here, and we really should have when we make our decision, is a map of the Lincoln cluster. When we rebuilt Lincoln, and we extended the boundaries of Lincoln so large that we have a huge population on both the east side and the west side of Lincoln. And so simply just to transition Knox is not enough because the people that live on the eastern side of Lincoln now have to, try to get all the way from the Emerald Heights area past Lincoln over to Knox. And so it's where Johnson is, that's where Horton is, that's where Webster is. Those schools that are directly on the east side of Lincoln needed some relief. So it's not a lot giving them 100 students, but it is some, versus trying to turn Millennial Tech into another school on the east side of Lincoln. So, but I think the concern here tonight from the board members is that certainly I recommend that we move forward, but before they feel comfortable, they have to have approval of the feeder pattern for Lincoln, and that was not a separate agenda item. It was just lumped in here under facilities.
It's really beyond my scope of responsibility and all that.
We agree with you. We're just saying that the staff should have brought this on a separate title, a separate agenda item to approve or disapprove the middle school feeding pattern for Lincoln.
Yeah, what I would recommend, or to make me feel comfortable, I absolutely agree with Ms. Jackson, would be a conversation with the Millennial Tech community that looks at the whole picture, the physical construction, and also, we had members of the Millennial Tech community tonight come to us with sort of a, what you guys were describing as a compromise idea. I think this whole discussion needs to happen with the community, and I think the Gompers community needs to also, be part of that discussion to talk about how this might affect the Gompers community and come back to us with in a timely manner again.
A timely manner, but I think we need to be very clear about what the issue is. And the issue is a feeder pattern to Lincoln. And let me just make sure that we understand that more than half of the 2,400 middle schoolers that live inside the Lincoln cluster are going outside of the Lincoln cluster. That means the ones that are already there at O'Farrell and GPA are there, the Millennium Tech are there. Outside of that range, we have another almost 2,400 students that are getting on buses in the morning. And the community's plight has been that they want to walk their children to school. And I think it's important for us to have those numbers when we have this conversation, so people understand what we're talking about. We're not trying to encroach on anything from GPA or O'Farrell or any of the schools around the communities. The week that we were discussing this was a great week because it was the week that was raining. And to go around the community and see all those children huddled in doorways and trying to huddle away from the rain, it was very, very sad. And we say we want to give parents options, but the parents have no options. And so we need to provide options for them. But I think the board, and I agree with the board members, this should have been a separate item brought to the board for discussion with all of those other items included.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me just make a comment. I think the board has been pretty clear on our support of the whole cluster model in the district. And then one of the things that happened as a result of that was you looked at the Lincoln cluster and said we don't really have a true cluster, a true feeder pattern because of what was missing. And I think, and we all agreed very quickly that the Knox plan, which has I think come together very well through all the community meetings and everything, is a very good plan for getting started on that. It sounds like there's still a very big hole, which is even much more than 100 students. I mean, from the numbers you're describing, it's almost, and I know I can't pull many out of the air, but it's like there needs to be another, potentially another middle school as we're moving away from sending kids to far areas of the district to go to school. So there's a lot to look out there. And I think we just have to be careful, too, when we're making changes, because we see this when people from outside come in with, which is different than us inside here, but sometimes and say they have a new idea and they kind of throw out the things that are already working with in place of their new idea. And so I think we have to really work closely with the millennial people to see what's really making that school successful, along with what the general needs of the neighborhood.
Yeah, and I just have to. We took Gompers and Keeler and converted them into charter because they were not working for our kids. These are two schools that are working and they're part of the cluster. I think that we need to take a look at this as a whole and what are our enrollment throughout the district and whether or not, as a whole, any of this makes sense. I'm also concerned about the number of K-8s. We spent millions of dollars converting K-8s a couple of years back. What happened to that money? Where did those K-8s go? There were, 6 or 7 K-8, restructuring that were done. So how many K-8s?
Total of 8.
Yeah, there were 8 K-8s that we spent millions of dollars already.
About $9 million in construction.
Yeah, $9 million worth of construction, when at the time we did not have. And now we're going to, that's got to be taken into it too. When we say that we don't have middle schools, we've got 9 K-8s. Already there. I disagree with you. I think we are imposing from the outside. I think there's a group inside that has a perception, but this really needs analysis as to, you've got the charters, you've got the K-8s. Sometimes parents decide to put their kids on buses for reasons that, we don't fathom, and, rain is one thing, but it doesn't, first of all, rain that often in Southern California, and secondly, there are children all over the world that deal with rain consistently. So, we need maybe a survey. Maybe that's what, part of what I would like to see is a survey, for everybody, and see how everyone's feeling about it and what they want to do.
I think what we need is the information. Right. Because I don't think the board members here, I have, because I'm in the community, but the board members here have not seen the information that was presented to the community and all the work that went into this. And I think that is why it should be brought forward as a separate item, so that all of the discussion that has gone on, you are aware of that. And you're not, so it's difficult. I can't explain it all to you.
But my concern is that that's, when we say it's a community, even if you get 300 people into a room or 500, that's not the community. I I want to know the kids, what the parents who are sending their kids outside of the area are thinking too.
Well, that's one of the concerns that we have to talk about, and I think because that is the big issue. One of the big issues that I do know we will address with that, when this transition occurs, especially on the Knox part, what will happen is some of the kids that are being bused to other schools outside the Lincoln cluster will choose to come back to Lincoln cluster. Right. That will affect the enrollment of those schools. Okay, but we have to make sure that what we're looking at first is the needs of the student, not the needs of the other communities, but the needs of the students. And so that's why it's very important that we have all the information, all the number, all the conversations, and that need to be presented to the board so we can make a good decision for the children.
One quick question: with the conversion of Knox, how many potentially more middle school students?
That's why you need to have the whole conversation.
No, but I just want to know, as far as starting with the addition of Knox, we have some middle school students already there, and then there will be a total enrollment. What's going to be the net gain into the cluster of middle school students?
I think the net gain was supposed to be something like 800 students, moving up to more than 800 students to get to a capacity of 1,200.
The site would be hard pressed to take more than 1,000 students.
Okay, 1,000 students.
About 1,000 students, and
it currently has how many middle school students?
No? Okay.
Just in middle school?
The middle school population.
Because you have the middle schools that's over at Knox now. You have the ones, how many? How many 6th and 7th graders you have? And then you have the ones from Porter.
6th graders, 53 8th graders, and 67 7th graders.
And Ms. Hamilton is here somewhere. Ms. Hamilton?
About 300, is that correct? Low 200s there now.
And then for Ms. Hamilton, for Porter, because they're going to be transferred their 6th graders over to you. I don't know how many 6th graders they have.
Okay, so I know we do need more information, but my point is just that we're already introducing the idea of several hundred more middle schoolers going to school in the cluster, and of course we can't guarantee what people are going to decide. We offer it in the neighborhood. We can't guarantee that they're going to.
So one of the issues in the community is that they hesitated to send their schools that had terrible appearance. In that the physical condition, the physical condition of the school was
terrible parents
was poor, and we think
heard
that
terrible parents instead of terrible appearance.
Let me clarify for Mr. Markey: terrible appearance, not terrible parents.
Appearance.
I was wondering if we had a survey for that.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Well, but the appearance was poor, and that's the feedback that we've gotten. They hesitated to send their kids to the schools.
Thank you.
Mr. Markey's not getting the job.
Right, so I think where we're at, go ahead, Superintendent. Yeah.
I was just going to summarize. Yes. I think what we have here is we agreed that a K-8 conversion of middle school at Knox is a concept that fills a major hole in the Lincoln feeder pattern. At this point, we need to do the detailed assessment, gather the community data, and go forward perhaps with additional town hall meetings at the Gompers Millennial Tech campus, gather what we've had before, and lay out where the demographer's numbers would take you in feeding kids into Millennial Tech and into the new middle school at Knox, and come back to the board with that information.
And could you also include the parents at Johnson and Webster, because in Horton, they're the ones that are going to be going to Millennial Tech. And it's kind of like you're asking Millennial Tech, and those kids are going to be transitioning on, but the families that are going to be going is the ones I think you need to get information from as well.
I think we need to do a full-blown analysis for the feeder pattern, because you could, at the risk of creating a Lincoln High School phenomena where you have more kids and you got seats, so what are your backup plans? What are your contingencies for the feeder pattern? So it has to be all-inclusive.
Okay, great. Thank you, Stuart. And let's move on now to the data center, etc.
Right, this is really a confirmation of a plan that's been out there for quite some time. We've come before the board at least 2 or 3 times on the data center project. And this is to just reaffirm that it's your intention as the Board of Education to move forward with this initiative. As I see it...
I understand. Can we get a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion from the board?
You know my feelings.
Okay. All right. Please vote.
We know very well.
Here we go.
TV last night.
Okay.
Very well, thank you.
And then the last is simply to approve the revised schedule with the revised revenue.
Right.
Yeah.
Second.
Got a motion? Can we get a second?
What is this?
Done.
This is just to, with
Just
the
vote,
with
Dr. Evans.
just
I refuse to not vote if I don't know what it is.
This is
Board of Education.
5-year plan.
with the revised
5-year plan.
It's moving everything
Okay.
up.
the presentation.
Yeah.
To move things, I approve of moving everything up.
Everything
That's
up.
right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Markey will be working 20-hour days instead of only 18.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
President Burke,
Yes.
just
Yes.
one final point. Did we act on Mission Bay High School
Yeah, I was out
field?
of the room. What did
There
we
was
do?
no motion to accelerate, so it stays where it is.
Stays where it is. Okay. Just to verify.
Now, part of this presentation was
If I made a motion, there'd be no second, right?
it was the Prop S update, but my sense is that on election night, you've probably reached your tolerance with Prop S.
Oh, I'd prefer to stay here all night.
Yeah, that's me too.
But it's up to you. If you'd like me to proceed with the presentation, I can do it in about 15 minutes, and then we'd all have a...
Yeah, we just approved everything.
I think we're all right.
He wants to tell, this is what we have here. And we have the information from you
Yes, sir.
about what
You
you've
have
done. We looked at it and we think it's
Okay,
great.
thank you very much
Thank you.
for your patience.
Thank you very much.
Get some rest.
Okay. We are adjourned.